People, deluded, I'm back again. I hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone's blessed. Happy Friday. Smash the like button. Get the creative juices flowing as we begin to go over, the latest news, rumors, and talking points emerging from Arsenal Football Club. Allegedly, Thomas Partey will leave Arsenal Football Club. It will take around 150 million to sign Isak. And Mikel Arteta wants curtain raisers. I'm sure you lot do as well. I mean, that term could be subjective. People would say Kai Havertz, when we signed him, wasn't a curtain raiser, and I still don't know if he is a curtain raiser for Arsenal, in the vein that Declan Rice, you could see that. David Raya, in terms of what Mikel Arteta wants from a goalkeeper, you can see that. I think Timber is that at left or right back or wherever you want to put him. Obviously, he had his injury. And Kai Havertz, in his own degree, as if, for example, we sign a great striker, one that immediately gets into our starting 11, and you've got Kai Havertz in and around the squad, and in terms of his current form, if he continues that next season, he can't lose his spot. Ultimately, we have a more competitive squad. On the topic of squad, as much as I would like a winger to compete with Saka and deputise for Saka and give us something on the left-hand side and give us even more goals, as much as I would like a striker that we can kind of, quote-unquote, guarantee is going to get 20-plus league goals to go with what we've got already, and all these players, that are in form or had great form towards the end of the season, if they can continue that, great, and get better. And those that lost their way a bit, Martinelli and Jesus, hopefully they could get back. I think curtain raisers for me would be a central midfielder, a striker, and obviously a winger. Then I think it's about depth. Let's be brutally honest, Arsenal fans, and let me know your thoughts on this. Realistically, we've probably got, and Mikel Arteta trusts all the players in it because they're all in his squad to varying degrees. But in terms of really, really trust, for me as an honest Arsenal fan, love the football club, smash the like button and subscribe. Really, there's probably, at a push, 14 players, realistically. The starting 11, whether that's your starting 11 on paper or because of form and other players not having fitness and whatnot. So the starting 11 we probably saw towards the end of the year. And then give or take, Zinchenko, Jesus, Trossard, if he's on the bench, or Martinelli, people of that ilk. With the greatest of respect, Fabio Vieira, Eddie Nketiah, Emil Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson. I wouldn't say they're necessarily trusted wholeheartedly at this moment in time. So who knows? But let's crack on anyways. Let me share my screen. Apparently, Arsenal star will leave the club during the summer transfer window. Arsenal are set to part company with Thomas Partey this summer and are ready to make a significant addition to their midfield department. Let me know your thoughts on Partey departing, because I'm in two camps. I feel you can't really let Partey leave unless we've got someone in or there's an assurance that we sign a central midfielder. I do think when fit, he gives us a lot. I do think, with a year left on his deal, he could give us a lot in competing for the Premier League again. The Champions League is going to have more games because the format has changed. We want to go, for me, to the FA Cup final, and the League Cup might not be the greatest of importance to football fans, but you want to do that. And Partey makes us better, really, when he's fit. And we were really starved for the whole season. I know towards the end we got to see it, of Declan Rice, Partey, and Odegaard. If we can get the Partey that played 40-odd appearances the season before the one that's just finished, great, 33 in the league. So I would like to keep Partey in that regards. I know in terms of his wages, in terms of his availability, these are factors that aren't kind to Partey. We tried to shift him off last summer. And I think Partey isn't one that the club are trying to immediately push out. You look at people more like Eddie and people of that ilk, that Ramsdale, that will raise funds. I think if certain offers are presented, then Partey leaves. And again, in many ways, I would like Thomas Partey to leave because it would force us that much more to look for a central midfielder. I think Odegaard's been great. I think Rice is great, but I think they could hit new levels if we complete that three-man midfield puzzle with another midfield addition, if I'm completely honest. I think we'll get one central mid in this year. Jorginho will probably leave at the end of next season, and we get another one in. We need to really solve that midfield. And I always say, who says Thomas Partey wants to leave? Of course, if the club told you want to leave, 1 minute he's leaving, then there's a new deal, then that it is what it is. But we're a competitive squad again. It's a nice place to be. Clearly, when fit, you're one of the first names on the team sheet, and Mikel Arteta likes you a lot. He might want to run down his own contract as well, because obviously he's 31. teams abroad. If you're looking to buy Partey, yes, you could have Saudi interest, but realistically, if you as a European club, you're probably not going to give Arsenal a decent transfer fee and give Partey wages, especially because from August, you give it 6 months. If you're an overseas club, you can talk to him obviously in January. So it all depends. I think the best trait you could have is being available, and I don't think you can do that with Partey. So if we find someone that is levels and can give us a lot, then it is what it is. With Thomas Partey, he did start our final 4 games of last season, but he was anonymous really. According to Romano, we're keen to cash in. He's still linked with Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. Every week he's linked with clubs in Saudi. He's occasionally linked with clubs in Spain, and every now and again, there are rumors that he might get a contract extension. The very fact that he's got a year left on his deal, where Arsenal haven't been doing what we was doing for years prior, letting players run down. We've been very proactive. I think it's quite telling that Thomas Partey's got a year left. Zinchenko's got 2 years left on his deal, and Smith Rowe the same. Now, maybe the club get round to it. Maybe if these guys take their chances and play, they can earn new deals. But I think that kind of tells you where the club's thinking is. He's said to be interested in clubs in Saudi Arabia, while a move to the Turkish Super League has also been muted. Arsenal, meanwhile, are certain to be in the market for a new central midfielder capable of playing in the number 6 role, which would free Declan Rice up to operate in a more advanced role. Apparently, Arsenal hold a long-standing interest in Aston Villa's Douglas Luiz, but as you know, Unai Emery's side have just qualified for the Champions League, so it would probably be difficult to prize him away. We have linked with Bruno Gomares as well, but where you look at fees in the region of 100 million, it's best to say forget about that really, but you never know. I would have loved Paqueta. Have you lot seen, Paqueta might face a ban, people, because of the whole betting stuff. So a year on, his potential move to Manchester City might be dead in the pan, people. We're continuously linked with Isak, and I do think we have to look for value for money, but we probably have to look at, we're never going to buy 1 million players for 100 odd million, but sometimes you have to pay the going rate, and it's worked with Declan Rice. Again, it's a bit different, but people may have said we overpaid for Kai Havertz. When you see Kai Havertz's form in 2024 to this point, nobody really cares about that 65 million, where, 6 months prior to that, when he was struggling in midfield and not really making a difference, you get where I'm going. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on Thomas Partey. Fabrizio Romano has said Partey will leave. Now there's a good chance they'll bring in a new midfielder, people. And there's several reports of that as well. Thomas Partey will leave. Arsenal has several targets lined up, so there's a good chance they'll bring in a new midfielder, which, again, that's the one silver lining, because, I wanted to keep Jorginho and Partey and bring in 2 midfielders, but I would say if Jorginho said, nah, I don't want to sign a new deal, which he has, and Partey leaves, that forces us to bring in and reinvent our midfield with some really long-term options. I know, big up Trossard, but you look at the final third, our players. Trossard obviously goes against the grain because he's 29, 30. But in whatever you have to say, with Smith Rowe, who can play left wing, with Martinelli, with Nelson, with Nketiah, with Saka, with actually Kai Havertz, who is 24, Gabriel Jesus only 27, and he's a talking point. We've got some long-term options defensively. Kirill, Benjamin White, Timber, Gabriel, Saliba. Age is kind to them, especially if you bring in someone like Hato. The midfield is where age is one thing that's against us, Jorginho and Partey. And then obviously, you've got Odegaard, you've got Rice. Nobody's really shown for a prolonged period that they can fill that left 8 role. Jorginho's done well, but again, age is not kind to him. Fabio Vieira's career at Arsenal has been stop-start because he can't stay fit. On occasion, Smith Rowe has looked fairly promising in that role, but it's literally, occasion, probably about 10 minutes, it feels like, across the season. So, and I've always said, for me, I don't think we're going to win anything until we reinvent that midfield. Of course, that's not the only reason. We could have, would have, should have probably won 2 trophies in 2 years without that, but you get the point. And I think Mikel Arteta would like to keep Thomas Partey, but again, when you consider all the factors and the balance sheet, it probably doesn't make sense. We're still linked with Luiz, still linked with Zubamendi, the same kind of midfield links. Make sure your notification bells are on, because you would have seen, with it being transfer season, I've actually done a lot of videos around midfielders we've been linked. I think I've got one to come out about Locatelli. I've done one about Fofana. I've done one about Coop Miners. I don't rest when it comes to content, especially at this period in time, people, because it is the off season. I have to save you lot. So yeah, Partey's been linked with Galatasaray, and you lot follow me on a regular basis. Check out the other videos. Every week there's a new club, every day, better yet. Romano also said we're still looking for a striker. We still believe that we need a proper traditional number 9. Of course, Havertz did very well, and they have Jesus, but a traditional number 9 is needed. Sesko, Gyökeres are on the list. I like Gyökeres. I just think it won't present quote unquote value for money. Bring Sesko. I hope that is done tomorrow, if I'm honest with you. That man, in 2 years' time, for those that don't believe in him, I'm not saying you're wrong. In 2 years' time, people will be talking about him if they're not already. He's a baller, people. Team News and Ticks, one of the leading ITKs on Arsenal, people. I think he's got a Patreon page, so check that out. But him and Charles Watts have done a YouTube video. He's apparently said, we hear a lot about floor raisers and ceiling raisers, which we need both. You know, I think indirectly, if you have Jesus, Zinchenko, Havertz, in theory, if he's out of the team, Trossard, the floor is risen, whatever you say. We do need curtain raisers in the same way Declan Rice was. In hindsight, Saliba, Odegaard potentially have as well, people. And it goes under the radar about Saka, because prior to Saka's introduction into the first team, when did we have a winger that we guaranteed was going to get double figures in all comps, really, and in terms of goals and assists? Ironically, you know, we've got players that can score goals. You know, Jesus got double figures the season before last. He didn't do it this year. Trossard joined us mid-season. He got 10 assists last year. He's found his goal-scoring boots this year. Odegaard's goal-scoring and assists are good, but it's not really near last year's. Martinelli's fallen off a cliff in terms of goal-scoring. When you look at our front three, and I'm not saying they're bad players and we should sell them, they're needed, but Saka is the only one you could sit there in August and say, you know, close to 99.9%, he will be up there for double figures for goals and assists. You don't know with the others. You're not necessarily surprised if they do it, but you're not necessarily surprised if they don't do it, people. So it's a testing summer, really, as we look to bridge the gap as much as you can claim to do that against a side like Manchester City. But I think in terms of resources and what we can control, there's many things we can improve. And I think having a stronger squad, a bigger squad, would be a lot in that regards, people. So, yeah, people, apparently we're to expect at least one ceiling raiser, a big name player capable of being first choice in this position, and maybe 2 or 3 other players to make the squad stronger, people. Apparently on Isak, Arteta is a massive fan. He's one that Arteta likes. If he could get one player, only sign one player, it'd be Isak. He loves him, but Newcastle don't want to lose him, and they're probably going to sell Callum Wilson and a couple others before they look to sell Isak, and probably price him out of a move in that regards, people. In fact, reports have come out and said Newcastle will demand in excess of 150 million from Arsenal to sell Isak this summer. Now, intentionally pricing him out, that you probably could get done for 80 or 100. Don't know if Arsenal will do that or if they'll look to do that. My guess is Isak stays put at Newcastle. But a new central striker is on Arsenal's wish list, with Isak under consideration alongside Sporting's Victor Gyökeres, while Brentford's Ivan Toney has also been linked with a move to the Emirates Stadium. The Telegraph reports that Newcastle are not contemplating selling Isak this summer, with Eddie Howe considering the Sweden international as a focal point of his future plans, people. Apparently, the report claims Newcastle have laughed at reports suggesting a 90 million offer would be accepted for Isak, and that Arsenal would need to double that bid in order for discussions to take place. I mean, it sounds a bit silly, like 15 million bids for Aaron Ramsdale, isn't it? Newcastle also said to be ready to convince Isak that he should stay at St James's Park in the event that Arsenal do make a move. You mean, 21 league goals on top of what we've got? That's great. You probably need Isak to somewhat burn his bridge at Newcastle. You'd probably need Arteta to, entice him, and you probably need Odegaard to text his old friends. Why didn't we just buy him when he was, struggling, really? Because he really has made his name in Newcastle and previously at Sociedad. Probably should have got him prior, people. So who knows, people. And he did say, I want to be at Newcastle in the future. And Newcastle will, I know this season's underwhelming when you look at the fact that the season before they qualified for the Champions League, but I do think Newcastle could have an exciting project. Brian Brobley, a player I've also done a video on, people. Look out for that. Apparently he could be the most realistic target for Arsenal in the summer. I like him. He's 22 years of age. I just don't think he's got enough technically about him. I think he's obviously a good goal scorer. He's got double digits, but I just feel, goals are one thing, and goals are the be all and end all of a striker. And that's the primary job we need from our striker, especially to take this to the next level. But we all know in this day and age, you can't just be a striker scoring 20 league goals. You need to defend well. You need to you need to work the channels. You need to act like a target man. Your link-up play needs to be great. You need to be able to, obviously, if I'm exaggerating, but let's just say we signed a striker and one game he scored a hat-trick and the other he had a very good performance without necessarily scoring. Sometimes you need to still be able to have a certain caliber of game in both. And I don't think Brobley's got that about him. Good target man, good height, good player, but I would rather Isak Benjamin Sesko and Gyökeres. Apparently, all of these players are being monitored by Arsenal people. Big up Gabriel Jesus. We need you to get back to form. I thought the Osimhen rumors were dead and buried, and I still believe such. But in an attempt to give you a lot of content, I go over everything in it. Victor Osimhen wants the Premier League. Osimhen would like Arsenal. Otherwise, he would consider Saudi Arabia. There is no club paying the release clause today, so there's going to have to be some negotiations at Napoli if you want Osimhen. I reckon he ends up at Chelsea, but there you have that. Apparently, he's waiting for Arsenal in major blow to Chelsea. Chelsea have been dealt a blow in their pursuit of Napoli striker Victor Osimhen, with the Serie A outfit fielding offers from clubs willing to meet his 110 million valuation in full. Now, I think this goes for all players of all clubs. We've got to remember, this is the calm before the storm. The market hasn't jumped off yet, so it is early days. Apparently, Osimhen himself is said to be keen on a move to Arsenal and looks set to leave Napoli over the summer, with the Italian club looking to maximise the fee they could get for the striker. Chelsea could secure talks with Osimhen if they meet his release clause. A swap deal is a possibility. Don't know for what player. But yeah, he's been linked with Arsenal, Chelsea and Saudi Arabia, people. Napoli would evaluate an Arab offer for Osimhen, who, however, wants the Premier League. He's waiting for Arsenal, but if a real proposal does not arrive, he would evaluate offers from Saudi Arabia. He's also continuously linked with PSG, as is his teammate, I can't say his name, but KK, the Georgian winger lad as well, people. So we'll have to see exactly, not just where Osimhen's concerned, but a lot of players. We've been linked with a number of young players, people, as we look to improve our academy. Arsenal are among a host of Premier League clubs hoping to sign Irish teen sensation Jason Miller when he turns 18. He's been linked with Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Brighton, and probably more clubs than I could count. I always say, don't care what country these players are from, where they're from. If they can progress to the first team, great. If this 16-year-old, obviously, if you sign for Arsenal, turns 18, can progress to the first team, amazing stuff. If not, and you turn him for a player you bought for a couple of thousand or a couple of million, and you sell him for significantly more than that, you can't go broke making a profit in theory as a business, people. Apparently, Arsenal have been tracking him for the last 18 months. We've been linked with a number of young Irish players and young Scottish players and players in the England in the lower leagues. Obviously, Brexit has put a spanner in the works in that you can't really get 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds from European clubs like you could a few years ago. But you get the point, people. You'd have to wait until he's 18. He made his debut as a 15-year-old. And apparently, Arsenal are making a real push to attack the youth market over the coming years by signing the best talent under the age of 18, which is great, people. Fenerbahce, as I said, have been linked with Thomas Partey, so that's now 2 Turkish clubs there. Romano has confirmed Sesko will decide his future ahead of the Euros, meaning his release clause will still be active for Arsenal to trigger. Apparently, it ends in June, people, and he's got a £56 million release clause. And his agent has previously spoken. His agent has been previously pictured at games, people, towards the end of the season. So whether he gets a new contract at Leipzig, joins AC Milan, joins Arsenal, joins whatever team, we'll have to see, people, in that regards. We've been linked with Maximilian Baer, I can't say his name, who hit 16 goals in 33 appearances for Hoffenheim. The young striker is being linked with a £35 million euro move there, people. Pedro Neto rumours have resurfaced. Arsenal are ready to make Wolverhampton Wanderers star Pedro Neto one of their key targets for the summer transfer window, as the Emirates Stadium recruitment staff have not given up optimism of being able to strike deals for 2 alternative wingers. Now, you hear apparently Wolves want £60 million. He's a quality player. I think, he had a good season last year, but unfortunately there was injuries. And I think this article is kind of leveraging the fact of we need a winger, and obviously there's been a previous interest in Pedro Neto and a willingness to see if we could get a deal done. 80 million quid. I don't think we're with that, if I'm honest with you. Let me know your thoughts. Apparently, we're still serious admirers of the Portugal international, who racked up 14 goal contributions during an injury-hit season. And had he have stayed fit, I think he would have been nominated for, or been one of those players we put in our team of the years when we're talking with our friends, because the first half of the season, he was great. Apparently, Arteta is in the market for fresh wide options. Neto apparently has been linked. Elise is still linked with Manchester United, but he has been linked with Arsenal, and it looks increasingly unlikely at this stage, as said there. Nico Williams, who has a release clause of around 50-60 million euros. Apparently, his wage demands are over 200 grand more than he earns at Bilbao. So that probably rules that out, people. And apparently, Dharma Chef of Sky Sports has said Wolves are under no pressure to cash in on the 24-year-old Pedro Neto, who's been described as absolutely incredible by the current gaffer at Wolves, Gary O'Neill. Apparently, Give Me Sports sources have been told that Arsenal are primed to enter formal discussions over a move for Neto if it becomes clear that the current employers Wolves have pinpointed 60 million as a realistic fee. Fair enough, man. And we have tracked him from his days at Braga. I've done a video on him doing his days at Braga, people. He has 3 years left on his deal, so that strengthens Wolves' hand. He does earn 50 grand a week. You would imagine that would double or significantly improve if and when he did sign for Arsenal. Let me know your thoughts as well. Do you think we more need a central midfielder, a winger, or a striker? Make sure you're checking out the YouTube community tabs as well. The Athletic have done an Arsenal squad audit, people. Now, Eddie's probably gone. Smith Rowe's future's in the balance. Tierney's days are numbered, unfortunately, people, as we need to rebuild. You look at our depth. I love the young Charlie Patino. I just think you might be used to really just make a profit at this moment in time. Lokonga's come out. His days are numbered. You know, Tavares needs to go tomorrow. Tierney is what it is. Zinchenko, 2 years left on his deal. There's still rumors. Cedric is gone, as we know. I don't think Kirill will leave, but he's someone that fields offers, so you never know. Marquinhos is currently on loan and probably someone we need to get rid of as well if he does not significantly improve. We know David Raya is staying at the club. We know Aaron Ramsdale. I don't think Arsenal will force you out, but it's probably been accepted that you're going to keep it moving, really and truly. And Arsenal could loan him out, essentially. Carl Hein apparently is out of contract this summer, people. You never know. He might get a new deal, you know, and be a third choice keeper. Probably needs to go out on loan. Apparently, Inaki Kanya is a big fan of Hein. Arthur Okonkwo, who's done well at Wrexham and previously been on loan in Austria, is leaving on a free. And I think where you look at young Waters and Arthur Okonkwo, I still think there's a lot we could do for young players that evidently aren't going to make it in the first team. And you would want to see them sold for profit. And there's decisions to be made over someone like Charlie Patton or Mika Berev, Tyrese, John Jules, etc., etc. So, yeah, we know Gabriel, Saliba, Benjamin White, they should be cool. Zinni's got 2 years left on his deal, people. Apparently, he's determined to stay and fight for his place. Arsenal have not engaged in any talks of a new deal, despite him coming to this club with a wealth of experience and being the guy to really show us this inverted fullback role. Timber, we know he's fine. Kirill, you never know, people, if an attractive offer comes in, but I think he'll be fine. Tomiyasu signed a new deal. Cedric is leaving. Tavares needs to leave today before this video even comes out to you guys, people. Benfica, you did us very dirty. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Whether Arsenal can find a permanent buyer, who knows, because Forest did decline an offer. Tierney did okay at Sociedad, didn't set the world alight. Made 16 starts, people, in the competition. There's 2 years left on his deal, so I have to see. I'd love him to stay and be a squad player, but who knows? This has said there's still mutual respect between Arsenal and Tierney, and there'll be a conversation, but he's going to be in the Euros. Partey is probably going to leave. I don't think we'll recoup anything close to the 50 million euros we spent, but some is better than none, people. Apparently, Partey would be open to moving if it meant a longer contract that provided more security. Fair enough, people. Odegaard, Declan Rice there. Cool, Jorginho has signed a new deal. El Nene will be departing. Smith Rowe, for me, I hope the guy who turns 24 in July gets an opportunity, but unfortunately, he just couldn't stay fit. Players were doing what they needed to do and was fighting for a league title, so he was obsolete. Apparently, all parties are aware he's at a point in his career where he needs to play more football than he's doing. And had you have carried on that Smith Rowe that initially burst on the scene, you might have been in the Euro squad. This time last year, Arsenal sat down with the players' reps to make it plain he was not for sale. If the discussion were purely down to Arteta, they might keep him around again. He knows Smith Rowe still has the potential to be a match winner, hence bringing him on as his first attacking substitute during the final day win over Everton. Apparently, Arsenal have less leverage this year. Smith Rowe has just 2 years remaining in his contract, and Arsenal may accept it's the right time to sell. And he has been linked with West Ham, Newcastle, Aston Villa, and a bunch of clubs during the January period. So he could be someone that makes us money. But where you look at Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, and Ramsdale, it's peculiar because, you know, there's homegrown quotas we need to tick. I think Fabio Vieira will be all right. I like Fabio, but I think now, next season, we need to see you break free from this cycle, which has been some initial promise, injured, out of the goods, really, because you're not playing ahead of Odegaard. The left 8 is up for grabs. You have deputized or come on for Saka at times and played on the right-hand side, but there's an issue in that. You need to stake a claim. And if everybody's in great form and staking claims, even, so, you know, the Partey's, the Fabio Vieiras, the Martinellis, the Jesuses, who some fans, they're not flavors of the month. We've got a stronger squad, and Arteta has more of a headache, you know, positive headaches, really and truly. This says Vieira's future may be tied to that of Smith Rowe. Losing both in the same summer would leave Arsenal light in midfield. You could make a case of Fabio Vieira going out on loan. Who knows? Lokonga is expected to leave permanently. He said, I had a discussion with Arsenal. The conclusion was the best thing for me was to leave the club, he told BBC this week. Now it's up to my agent and the club to find something. I still have a contract there, 1 year plus a 1 year option. So do we take out that other year option? So he's got 2 years and strengthens our hand. If not, we're in trouble there. He's done well at Luton, take nothing away from Luton or Lokonga, but if an Anderlecht Academy graduate, a Belgium international, an Arsenal central midfielder cannot shine like how Barkley did in a promoted championship side, with the greatest of respect to Luton, honestly, we're in trouble, aren't we there? So I don't think he pulled up any trees. I would love for half of these players that, you know, look like they're on their way out to look like decent players again, or players that we hold in higher regards, because it plugs a lot of gaps. But, you know, I think at this moment in time, Lokonga's a lot more comfortable as an 8, not really an Arsenal 8, not mature or defensively sound enough to be a 6, really. So there's that. Patino's contracted until 2025, and at 20 years of age is probably best for him to move on. He's said to be exploring his options as abroad as well as in England. We know Saka is calm, Kai Havertz is cool, Martinelli is cool. You know, Jesus, I think the club might listen to offers, but apparently he wants to stay, people, and hopefully we see the Jesus of next season. Big up Trossard, people. He has a deal that runs until 2027, so essentially 2 odd years, 18 months left on his deal. So if he keeps up his form, he might get something. Reece Nelson probably needs to depart for the best of him, really, because you're not really getting minutes. He did sign a new contract last year, and big up to him because I follow him on Instagram. He's actually in Jamaica on holiday, so just for that, I want you to stay now. Hopefully, Eddie Nketiah, you know, gets us a decent fee, but he's contracted until 2028. He's on 100 grand a week, and he's playing for Arsenal Football Club wearing the number 14. I'm not saying he's happy not to start games, because considering how the season started for him to now, there'd be issues. But Arsenal probably need to move him on more than Eddie needs to move on. Although I could add a caveat to that and say Eddie Nketiah, a bit like Reece Nelson and Smith Rowe, if you could go somewhere where you're going to play significant and consistent football, where would you be? Marquinhos needs to cut as well, people, if I'm honest with you. It just hasn't worked out. Just turn that 3 million into something and we're all right. You know, Mikel Arteta is contracted until 2025. You'd imagine he signs a new deal. Apparently, we're set to hold negotiations about such in the next few weeks. Romano has said Arteta has only 1 year left on his contract, but the club considering an absolute crucial piece of their project, so they want to extend his contract as soon as possible. The expectation for Arsenal to advance on Arteta's new contract soon. Negotiations will be in the next weeks, potentially months, but both parties are very happy together, and I expect Arteta to continue at Arsenal because he's very happy at the club and the work's not done. Mika Beref has been linked with a move away, people, and for him, go out and get football. You've won a trophy over there in Austria, and we're talking about buying a striker, let alone Eddie Nketiah, who is in front of you. The abilities to play Kai Havertz, Jesus, Trossard, all as false nines. Martinelli probably plays as a striker before him, probably needs to keep it moving, really. You know, he did well. 15 goals and 9 assists in 37 games over at Stuttgart. Apparently, they're in talks with Arsenal and plan to hold talks next week to try and commit him to sign for them on a permanent basis. And when he joined them on loan, the directors, they were saying, we tried to buy him permanently, really and truly. So we'll have to see, people. Apparently, we want a £2 million deal, but we could live with, 2 million euros, but we could live with a 3 million euros. I think we could get a bit more than that, especially if you get him to sign a new deal. Not that I would if I was him. And we keep it moving, people. Mika's intense style of play is even more important for us. He's always annoying. You can never take your eyes off him. He can contribute something crucial right up to the end. Yes, we want to try and sign Mika permanently. There is an appointment with Arsenal next week. Maybe they'll quote a price that would be feasible for us. We could push our limits a little higher for a player like that. And make sure you put a fat sell-on clause, because they're not stupid. They know you do your thing in Austria for a bit. We might sell you back to British shores for a significantly decent profit. We have been linked with Justin Bujlo, who is the number 1 at Feyenoord, people. Liverpool have also been linked with him. Obviously, Arne Slot was his former manager who's joined Liverpool, so he could go over there. Get it done. Apparently, people, you know, he could be available for 10 million quid, which you sell Ramsdale for something decent, it pays for itself. Clubs were quoted 22 million for him last summer. Does he want to be second fiddle? You know, you go to Liverpool, you're not playing ahead of Alisson, you know, you're not playing ahead of Raya, whether you're better than these guys or not. I'd imagine United tried to buy him prior then when they bought Andre Onana. Is it Andre Onana? Yeah, well, when they tried to buy the keeper, Onana, or maybe I think Man United got some Turkish keeper. Maybe they wanted him to be in that role. I don't know, but Who knows, really and truly? But we know we need to buy a keeper. Technically, 2 goalies, because Raya's move will be made permanent, in due course. We've talked about Douglas Luiz already. We've gone over what Lokonga has said, people. We've gone over Mikel Arteta. Charles Watson said there's been tentative talks, and he does expect him to manage in Spain one day. Man United are leading the race for Elise, but apparently United, Arsenal, Villa, Newcastle all continuously being linked with such people. We're keen on Bailey De Pepper as part of our recruitment drive. He plays for Port Vale. He's currently in the England's under-17 side. Big up all of you lot watching the under-17 Euros. You would have seen him score in England's football. I'm pretty sure I definitely watched the game. Ethan scored a cracker. It was England 4, France 0. They absolutely moved to France, and he got a goal. He's a bloody hard worker, people. So it would be a good sign. And realistically, again, if he progresses to the first team, great. If you can make a sale, keep it moving. Hansi Flick is set to replace Xavi Hernandez, people, as Barcelona head coach. Why you're asking yourselves why I'm mentioning that? It's just because we've been linked with Kimmich. Now, I'm sure Bayern Munich, with Kimmich's contract until 2025, that's something of concern. Probably the new manager, does he want to use Kimmich? Does he not want to? Does Kimmich want to stay and believe in the manager? Apparently, he didn't have the best of relationships with Thomas Tuchel. He was linked with Barcelona before, and is always linked with Barcelona. But maybe a fellow German man and a German manager that he knows going to Barcelona will put further fuel on the flames. People, Arteta is set to sign a new contract soon, and apparently Arsenal are looking to finalise their pre-season plans over the next week once the result of Saturday's FA Cup final is known, people. As you know, if Man United don't win that, then we're going to meet Manchester City at Wembley once again, people. Apparently, Arsenal have traditionally played the Emirates Cup the last weekend before the season starts, but if they're playing in the Community Shield, they could be forced to do so in the middle of the week before the Community Shield, as was the case last summer. We'll kick off pre-season by meeting at London Coley before flying to America on July the 21st for a tour, people. As long as the preseason goes to plan, I'm all for it. And whatever we did in Dubai, whatever we did in the last 2 preseasons, keep doing that, Mikel Arteta, and making it better, really. But with that being said, I must admit this video went a lot longer than I thought it would be, man. But you see, I tried to go the extra mile for you guys. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on Osimhen, on Isak, on incomings, on outgoings, on Thomas Partey, on Brian Brobley. I'm trying to make sure I remember everything. Most importantly, stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you for your consistent support. If you're not going to do anything, leave a comment after, smash the like button, and subscribe. We're on a journey to 60,000. Every like boosts the YouTube algorithm. On that note, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace. You always